So I was on Twitter the other night and I follow this food blogger, The Kitchenista. She's got some really great content, so definitely check her out if you're not following her already. And she was having a conversation with someone who made the comment of his favorite local casual restaurant is way better than any upscale or five-star restaurant. And in her reply, she says, well, what does upscale and five-star mean anyway? And I thought to myself, that's a great point. What does it mean? Is upscale and five-star automatically together? Is it how we judge all of the best restaurants? Are they really better than anyone else? Is the food even tastier there than it is at my local restaurant? So if you've had those kind of questions, stick around. Let's discuss. Hi, and welcome back to Mama Coco's Delights. I'm Mama Coco, and today we're talking about restaurant ratings, whether they are upscale or casual, whether it's 5 stars or 4 or 3. We're gonna kind of break those down and see what exactly does that really mean. But the first thing we've got to do is to separate the two thoughts. Here's the deal. Upscale, casual, fast casual, fine dining, those titles really don't necessarily tell you exactly what's going on with the food. They tell you more about the environment and the price point than anything, and we'll get to that in a second. The 5-star ratings, now those are going to be based usually off of service and food. So they're completely different things, and they don't necessarily mean one or the other, mean the same thing. Because you can have an absolutely 5-star rated, amazing dinner at a casual restaurant, or you can have some food at an upscale restaurant. So let's start off with the classifications of restaurants. And that's where you're going to find your titles like upscale or casual. So there's 5 different classifications. The very, very top is upscale, fine dining. After that, you're going to have what's called upscale casual. And that's going to be a little bit more relaxed, and we'll get into those details. Then you're going to have just casual, which is pretty much most restaurants in this country, a good portion of them. Then you've got fast casual, and then finally you've got fast food, or they call it quick service now because the whole fast food title has a negative connotation. So those are the different classifications, and what they talk about is different price points, different environments, the way your food is served to you, and the different options and amenities at each restaurant. So let's get into which ones. So let's start at the bottom with your fast food or quick service restaurants. And again, the qualifications, the categories that we're talking about have very little, or not very little, but they have less to do with the food and how the food tastes, more to do with the environment and the service level. So quick service or fast casual. Now that's going to be your counter service only. You're walking up to a counter, you're placing your order, you're getting your food, you're giving them money, and you're heading out. Or there are some tables if you want to sit and stay, you can, or you're ordering from a drive-through window. There are no servers. Most of the product you're going to be getting is going to be pre-made for you. So it's not like that burger was made to your specification. That burger was just made and now you came up and you ordered that burger. Yay. It's the quickest option. It's also the cheapest option. Generally, you're going to spend less than $10 per person. There's no bar, and there's not really a lot of ambiance. Again, it's just come in, get your food, and go. Next category is fast casual. Now, this food is often made for you or prepared for you, meaning that they've already made some things in advance, and it's like Chipotle where they're building your burrito as your suggestions. Again, it's going to be counter service. Now there are some fast casual table service places, think your IHOPs or your Cracker Barrels or things like that. Another thing about them is they generally, again, don't have any bar. There's no alcoholic beverages that you're purchasing, except for with the exception of Chipotle, which again, you're just going up to the counter and you're pointing to that beer and that's the beer you're getting. All paper products, no real bar, quick service, but the food is going to be, again, made to order or prepared to order for you. So it's a slightly higher experience. And the price point you're looking at is 10 to 15 bucks a person, as opposed to something a little bit lower. Now next is the casual restaurant. And this actually encompasses most restaurants in this country, most of your chains like P.F. Chang's or Olive Garden or Outback and things like that, they fall under the header of casual restaurants. Now these restaurants are going to be slightly pricier than your fast casual. So you're going to be spending about $15 to $25 per person as opposed to the 10 and less. It is going to be a sit-down restaurant. That's one of the biggest differences. Casual restaurants, you have a service staff and they are trained to meet your needs. There usually is a bar at casual restaurants, whereas the last two categories, there's usually no bar at all. You're going to be there for about an hour. So the turnover is relatively quick, but you can sit a little bit longer. You can linger a little bit longer. Now with casual restaurants, there's usually no dress code. You don't necessarily need reservations. You can just walk in. Although some places, the busier they get, it's probably better if you have reservations, but most places you can just walk in wearing whatever it is you want to wear. Often casual restaurants are themed restaurants, like Outback is themed for Australia, and P.F. Chang's has an Asian theme, and Olive Garden has an it has an Italian theme. So they're generally going to be themed restaurants. Now you will be eating on plates and using silverware, but there are going to be some paper products, like your napkins might be paper, or your menus might be laminated paper. So there are going to be some level of paper, and there's also going to be a higher level of plastic products. So, your drink cup is probably going to be plastic as opposed to being glass, unless it's, of course, a glass of wine. That's some of the difference between them. Now, again, it's a slightly higher price point. You are getting table service. You don't necessarily need a reservation, and you definitely don't need a dress code, but it is a slightly better experience. Now, that isn't to say that the food is better, but it's also not to say that the food is worse. It's just the experience that we're talking about in the environment, and that is what makes it a casual restaurant. With me? Come on, you can do the video with me. It's okay. You can do it. You can absolutely do the video with me. Ready? Ready? You got to talk about casual restaurants. Can you talk about casual restaurants? No? You don't want to? Okay. So our next category is upscale casual. So now we're getting a little bit pricier, and the environment is getting a little bit fancier. Not super fancy, but it's definitely getting fancy. Now in upscale casual restaurants, you're gonna find that you're definitely going to only be eating on china, and all of your glassware is going to be glass. There's not gonna be any plastic around, and there's definitely not gonna be any paper products around. The other thing about upscale casual is that it's going to be a longer dining experience. So generally you're going to be sitting around for 1 to 2 hours enjoying your dining experience completely. The menu is going to be a little bit more extensive. It's going to be not so much themed, although there are some themed upscale casual restaurants, but it's going to be a little bit more, the products that they're bringing in are going to be a little higher end. They're going to put a little bit more higher quality products on their menu, and the menu is going to have a little bit more of a variety to it. Not in the numbers of how many items are on the menu per se. They're gonna explore their food options a little bit better. One of the things it also has is it, of course, is going to have a bar and a full bar, and they're going to have a little bit higher end liquor in their bar. So you're going to have some of your finer scotches, you're going to have some of your finer bourbons, and things like that. They're also going to have a wine list. Now, it's not going to be a super fancy wine list. They're not necessarily going to have a sommelier on staff, but they are going to have a wine list that somebody has taken a lot of time and care to really build and match towards their concept and towards their menu. Their servers, now, when you're in a casual restaurant, the servers are trained to meet your needs. Upscale casual restaurants, the servers are trained to meet and exceed your needs. So what they're trying to do is make sure that you have an amazingly enjoyable experience. And for that, you're going to pay a little bit more money. So you're looking at the $25 to $50 per person price range. With upscale casual restaurants, the reservations are recommended at this point. It isn't necessarily a requirement, but it's definitely a recommendation. So here we are at the top. Upscale restaurants, or fine dining, or white tablecloth. Now these restaurants are going to be the top-notch level of service and environment. Does it mean the food is the best food you've ever had in your life? Not necessarily, but it's definitely better be some of the best service you've ever had in your life. Now these restaurants are in a much fancier environment. They're going to have your leather, your marble, your gold everywhere and things like that. And they also are going to require not always, but generally they require somewhat of a dress code, business casual, things like that, because you're going out for a super special evening. And you're also going to pay significantly more. We're talking $50 to $60 per person and up, and that doesn't include your alcohol necessarily. Now, what do you get for that? You get service, and I mean good service. You usually have one server who is assigned to you, but then there's this team of server helpers and all these other people who are also taking care of you at the same time. I mean, it is luxurious. Someone's pouring your glass, somebody else is pouring your water, someone is making a wine suggestion to you. They often have a sommelier on staff. They usually have an extensive wine list, like it's usually a book, and they have all of these different wines that could possibly go with anything that this amazing chef has created for you. Now, these servers are trained not just to meet or exceed your needs. These servers are now trained to anticipate your every need. They are watching, and they are making sure that, let's get some fresh water for them. Let's get some bread down on this table. Did they leave the table? Let me fold their napkin for them before they come back. They are trained. They have the highest level of service training, and they are trained to make sure that your every desire is met while you're at that restaurant. Now let's talk about the food. Fine dining restaurants or upscale restaurants are going to use the highest level of food that they can get in. They are going to, it's going to be your dry aged steaks, it's going to be your Kobe beef, it's going to be sushi that is wild and wonderful and exotic and very, very rare. They're using exotic ingredients, they're producing them in ways that are daring and exciting and fun, and they're often pushing the boundaries of what food can do and what food is doing. They often set some of the trend. They'll tell the world, hey, this is what we're doing in food, and this is where food is heading. So to recap our categories, we've got our quick service, which is fast food. We've got our fast casual, which is more like Chipotle and things like that. We've got our casual, which is like Olive Garden and P.F. Chang's. Then we've got our upscale casual, which is going to be like Fleming's or Cooper's Hawk Winery. And then we've got our upscale, which is going to be the top end as far as super, super luxurious dining experiences. So, what's with all the stars? Let's talk about that. The star rating system is a way for newspapers and magazines and television shows and just about anyone these days to give their opinion about a restaurant. Now, that's the key point. It is someone's opinion. So if you go to the same restaurant 3 weeks later and go, I don't think it's that good at all. It's just someone's opinion. You don't necessarily have to agree with them. And that's where I think a lot of people get confused with rating systems, is they think that that means this restaurant is way better than this restaurant over here. And that isn't necessarily so. One, you've got to say, whose opinion is it? And do I normally agree with that person anyway? Before the internet got into the rating restaurants game with Yelp and other websites, you had the opinion of certain men, usually food critics, those were the law on whether or not this restaurant was a good restaurant or not. Several companies, several magazines, several newspapers. The New York Times reviews your restaurant and gives you great stars. It's a huge thing. Same with the Washington Post or any of the big companies like Michelin and Forbes and AAA. The issue is, for years, those opinions were pretty much kind of narrowly decided. They were narrowly decided by mostly just white middle-aged men, and so it was their opinion on whether or not your restaurant got these great stars from the New York Times or not. And that doesn't seem fair, because a middle-aged white guy isn't necessarily going to have the same opinion about a restaurant that I'm going to have. His experience at that Thai place around the corner might be it's kind of blah, or it's too spicy. Or my experience is going to be like, oh my God, this is the best place ever. The coconut milk curry is just a bomb. You have to get a lot of opinions from a lot of people to get some better perspective. And that's one of the biggest issues with the wonderful world of ratings, star ratings, is people are starting to fight back and go, hey, why does his opinion matter more than mine? Just because he's got this big budget and go to the fanciest restaurants in town, why does that make his restaurant's choices better than my restaurant choices? And that's one of the things we really need to explore. So let's talk about the biggest of the big rating systems, and that is the Michelin star rating system. Michelin is considered like the granddaddy of restaurant ratings. To receive a Michelin star can make or break you. To lose a Michelin star has actually caused people to commit suicide. It's that intense. Now, You're going, Michelin, hey, that sounds like the tire company. Well, it is. It's the tire company. Yeah, I know, it sounds weird. The tire company back in the 1900s, when, they first started making tires and cars, there wasn't a lot of people on the road. So what they were trying to do is find a way to get people to travel and use their vehicles. And in order to do that, they made these guidebooks. And these guidebooks went all the way around Paris and France, basically, telling people where to go and eat and stay and all these other things so that they could get out on the road and use their car more. Because the more they use their cars, the more tires that they would need to buy. Then in 1922, someone said, hey, this restaurant section of our guidebook is really, really popular. So let's focus on that for a little while. So what Michelin did is they hired this team of inspectors, and these inspectors went out and they tasted and criticized all these different restaurants. It wasn't until 1926 where they started assigning them stars, but that's how it took off. So here's some of the critique about the Michelin star system. Is Michelin has been criticized for years for only rating the super, super, uber high expensive restaurants, or paying favoritisms to certain chefs versus others, or really only preferring restaurants that have French menus to other restaurants. They've responded with their critique by trying to branch out a little bit more. I mean, goodness gracious, the United States didn't get their first Michelin star restaurant until 2005. Michelin's been around since 1922. They've been rating restaurants since then. They didn't come to the US until 2005. And that was part of their whole rebranding, we're part of the world, yada, 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 yada. I'm saying all this to say that the star rating system is just opinion. Before I started recording this video, I went on to Google Maps and I looked up McDonald's and looked at the ratings for the McDonald's in my neighborhood. Now, in my neighborhood, there's McDonald's that have a 3.2 star rating and a 3.9 star rating. Does that mean that McDonald's is better than the sushi place that has a 3.7 rating? Not necessarily. So when you're looking at, it's a 5-star rated restaurant, you really want to look at who made it a 5-star rated restaurant. Is it the New York Times? Okay, well then let me look at which one of the New York Times food critics did it, and if I like anything else on their ratings. When they rate something 5-star, have I gone to any of those places? Do I like them? Because if I don't, then I'm probably not gonna like this one either. Or if you find that there's somebody on Yelp who goes to a lot of different restaurants and their ratings, you followed them for years and oh my God, their ratings are always spot on, then yeah, their 5-star rating is gonna be someplace you really reach out to. But if the Washington Post likes one place and you thought it was boring and drab and the food needed some salt, then that doesn't make your opinion any less valid, and that doesn't make his any more valid. It's just your experience and your opinion. So I would actually put a lot less emphasis on star ratings than I would anything else. I kind of just don't think about them. I'll look to see if it's a bunch of really, really negative ones, because then I'm going to be like, okay, maybe they're onto something here if everybody thinks this place sucks. I'm going to do my own research, and I'm going to kind of take a broader look at things, and then honestly, I'm just going to go to the place or not and decide, I like this. No, this guy was right. Or, nah, he was off. Really off. It's kind of blah. So I hope this helped a little. Just remember, titles like upscale or casual are really talking about the experience, the price point, and the options and amenities that a restaurant is going to give you. Things like stars, 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, are just going to be someone's opinion. And you can take that with a grain of salt. You can either agree or disagree, and that's fine. Again, I hope I answered some of your questions. Please let me know if you have any more. Thanks for your time. I always love sitting and talking with you guys about different things. Please like, subscribe, turn on the little bell notification thing, and share. Definitely share. Again, any questions, comments, what you thought of this, put it down below in the comment section. I'll really appreciate that. And I'll see you next time. Have a great night.